And that is a serious dilemma, because we're living in a world where, as don't like that term, if you know a better one, let me know, but where social license is pivotal for our products, where our consumer base is very, very critical and very discriminate in where they buy their products from. If we come out in 2020 not having met our own self-imposed targets, if you think we're having a hard time building pipelines now and selling and accessing our products to new markets, wait what happens in 2020. So whether we now think that it was a good idea or not, the fact is that we're pretty well hooked on it if we want to meet those targets. And I don't believe we can afford to miss our 2020 targets. So my proposal to Albertans is, since we've already invested and we have the trunk lines running all over the province and we're capturing and storing carbon underground, let's make lemons out of lemonade and use it as a feedstock for industries that we could develop in this province. And greenhouse industry is just one where carbon could be used as a feedstock material.
All right, thank you. One quick response, if I may. Another thing you might want to look at as the success of Veostra was that Alberta brought a massive asset to the table, whereas in a lot of the ones that failed, we didn't. The asset that we brought to the table was the Alberta Energy Resources Conservation Board. Mm-hmm. That when we said we're going to do Veostra, we know how to handle data.
That's right.
And they brought that to the table. And a lot of the other projects that didn't go well,
you're right,
Alberta didn't bring anything really to the table except they got a good idea.
You're right.
All right, thanks.
Yeah,
You're starting to
you're
sound
right.
like a real conservative there, Rob. We're going to go.
Progressive, anyway.
We're gonna, but you have to know, we have a broad representation of political interests here. We're going to go Peter Templeman, Miles.
Nice socks, by the way.
Thank you.
I think they're terrific. Talk to me, I want to know about debt. Now, my good buddy Ralph got us out of debt about 10 years ago or so. And we're now, I think, about $10 billion in debt as a province. And in the last 10 years, we've been spending like drunken sailors. And having been a sailor and am a sailor, and you are too, I know exactly what that's like. I think looking ahead...
Drunk?
Pardon me?
Sailing drunk?
Sailing drunk? Oh. And worse. Looking ahead at the economy and where it's going, and I'm looking at the big picture, I mean, the world is bankrupt. And I think we're going to have a come-to-Jesus moment, in the words of another well-known politician. What are your ideas in terms of your ideas and where the money is going to come from, and how does that affect our debt over the long term?
Well, that is why I am so passionate about making sure that our operating budget is balanced. And you know, I sorry for being late by today. I was held back by a teleconference with over 400 trustees, public school board trustees. And the first question they asked me, are you going to provide us with predictable, sustainable funding? And I said no. And the reason I said no is not because I don't value public education, just the opposite. I'm very passionate about education, but I refuse to lie to them. No one in this province can actually make that promise unless A, you have a crystal ball and you know what the revenue of the province will be moving forward next year or even 3 months, or B, you actually tell the entire truth then, and you will say, yes, I will provide you education with sustainable, predictable funding for the next 5 years, but if our revenue drops, I will cut healthcare severely, but no one's saying that. Or I will increase taxes, but no one's saying that either. So the fact is that in a province like ours, where revenues pivot up and down, anyone who says I will provide anybody predictable and sustainable funding is not telling them the whole story. And your question is very good to that fact. You know, I firmly believe that we have to have a balanced operating budget. So as our economy fluctuates up and down, there will be times when some ministries will have to take a haircut if revenues drop. Those are very difficult decisions to make, but we make those decisions as families all the time. Times are better, you buy a little bit more. Times are worse, you buy a little bit less. Operating budget has to be balanced. But you know, I was part of the mortgage burning ceremony with Ralph Klein. I sat in his caucus for over 6 years. And that was very much celebrated, and we were the envy of the country. And frankly, world at that point in time. But there was this one part of budget that we were not talking about, and that was our infrastructure deficit. No, we haven't built. And I'll give you an example. You remember that very unpopular video image that we all saw on the news of the hospital being exploded here or imploded here in Calgary. Nobody was happy about that. We will have another one within the next year in Edmonton. Those of you who know Edmonton very well, in the very far west of Edmonton, there's a hospital called Misericordia Hospital. Misericordia Hospital right now has been deemed unsafe for patients. And I know for a fact, having spent some time with administration and infrastructure, if we were to put not a lot of money into that hospital about 15 years ago, that hospital would still serve us for another 30 years. But we didn't. Because we're hell-bent on paying off the debt and keeping our budget balanced. So we were not investing in infrastructure. So we have infrastructure in this province that is under-maintained, hasn't been maintained at all for the last 20 years. And we have an infrastructure backlog. There was projects that should have been built and weren't built, and now it's coming home to roost. It's catching up to us. So that part of our budget we have to address, and we simply don't have the money to pay for it cash up front. We will have to amortize it. The severity of shortage of senior homes and schools and hospitals in this province, and the maintenance of some of that infrastructure that isn't so sexy because it's underground, utilities, water treatment plants, culverts and bridges, it didn't happen overnight. It's because we haven't paid attention to it, or at least chose not to pay attention to it over the last 20 years. And now it's catch-up time.
What order of magnitude are you talking about?
Order of magnitude? It depends how we prioritize, but you're looking at about $3.5 to $4 billion of backlog right now if we were to catch up our infrastructure just on maintenance alone. Our bridges right now, 60% of our bridges are at a pivotal point where we either put some serious dollars into maintenance or there will be replacement within 10 years.
That should be within the operating budget that you're recommending.
Maintenance should be, but it wasn't.
Yeah, but I'm just saying this backlog, under your leadership, if I heard you correctly, you would then make it a 25-year mortgage or whatever it is, so that it's recorded and paid over the next 25 years.
And build it.
What is that number then, if you take that?
We will have to jointly decide that, because that number, there is a spectrum of severe needs to wants. At this point in time, we're not going to deal with wants. We have to deal with needs. And we will have to be very small c conservative in what we put into that package. But the fact is that there will be a significant amount of infrastructure that will have to be amortized over a number of years and built into our balanced operating budget.
And it's the right time with the lowest interest rates, and
Well,
it takes leadership to do it.
Now is the time to do it, because we know that cost of construction and maintenance will not go down. It'll only go up. And interest rates I don't believe will ever go any lower. So if we are to make that decision, now is the time to capitalize on that opportunity and lock it.
Does that include maintenance?
Well, maintenance is difficult to amortize.
But it's redundant to amortize if we don't have maintenance.
That's right.
or
So
goals.
maintenance will have to be built into our operating budget. Yeah. Maintenance doesn't lend itself into any form of private-public partnership type of financing.
All right, we've got a long list of people who want to ask questions. Miles, you're next.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mr. Lukaszuk, for a very thoughtful and compelling presentation. And thank you for serving for 14 years. And I really love people who chose to come to Canada. I just find the enthusiasm, the passion, and the appreciation that immigrants bring to Canada is really fabulous, the energy. You talked about democracy. And if I could ask the chair, if my question could first go as a poll to the audience, and then have Mr. Lukaszuk.
Let's do it.
Okay, the question to the audience is, although technically not forbidden, do you think it's acceptable for a candidate to buy memberships and give them out to people? Those that believe it is acceptable, please raise your hand. Those who believe it is not proper practice, please raise your hand.
Do you want a recount over there?
So, Mr. Lukaszuk, would you comment on what your thoughts are, what your answer to the question is, and what might be the long-term ramifications for the party, the PC party, if Mr. Prentice wins? And should all Albertans be calling him today to ask for their free membership?
Well, I've been encouraging, actually, people who support me today. I'm on the record saying that. You know, this is a very complex issue for many reasons, but the answer actually to it is very simple, because it is not based in rules or laws, but it's based in morality. Maybe a little bit of a background, if you will give me the chance to share with you, for those of you who haven't been members of the PC party or active in the PC party. Our party, since the day one of the party when Premier Lougheed started, had memberships that had a monetary value. And that value changed. When I first engaged with this party in 1986, it was somewhere around $5, I believe. And memberships were sold in books that you had to actually pre-buy. The party would sell you a book of 10 memberships, you'd give them $50, and they had duplicates. There was a carbon page in it, and when I sold you a membership, you actually had to sign. And one copy was yours, that was your membership, and then the signed copy went to the PC party headquarters, so they knew that you A, paid $5, and B, that you wanted that membership, that you actually bought that membership. With advancement of technology, someone decided for this leadership race that we will start selling memberships electronically, which meant that you no longer can get that signature, because you can buy it online, or you can buy it from me, or you can fill out a piece of an application and I will enter it for you online. But it never absolved us of the now $10, of the $10 fee. And it is true that nowhere in PC party constitution does it say that membership is to be dispensed upon payment of $10. It's simply common law of the party. It always has been so. And nor does it say anywhere in the rules of the party that I cannot give you a membership for free and give you $10 to vote for me. And yet intuitively we know that that would be wrong. So it was assumed by all that we are selling memberships as we always have. And 2 out of 3 candidates, and I'm very, very much satisfied with Mr. McIver, he continues to sell memberships, as do I. But there's that technicality that was found in the rules that it doesn't say so necessarily, so you could technically give him away. I have an issue with that for a number of reasons. Because you have now 2 candidates out of 3 who are actually selling memberships. And even though the fee of $10 to most of us is not prohibited, but there are people out there to whom $10 is prohibited. If you're on age or some form of social assistance, $10 is a lot of money, especially when you want to buy it for your whole family, 3 kids and a wife. All of a sudden you're paying $50. It starts to become real money. Second thing is that there's that commitment. You want to become a member of this party. There are benefits that come from becoming a member of the party. You will be getting bulletins, newspapers, and things. That's what you're paying for when you get that membership for $10. And second of all, in any democratic race, you want to make sure that the same rules apply to all 3 candidates. This is not to be decided by who can raise most money and buy them all out and then give them away. It's supposed to be decided on ideas and who can attract more people who are compelled to vote for that candidate and will pick up a membership to vote. So that is a problem in itself, and it isn't because of the rules. We don't wake up every morning when we get out of bed and read the Criminal Code of Canada to see what is right and what is wrong. You have that feeling inside, and you know what is right and what is wrong. And if you go by that feeling, 99% of the time you will know what is right and what is wrong. This feels wrong. And you have just voted. To you it feels wrong too. So if it feels wrong and we all agree it feels wrong, and it was never done that way, it was not supposed to be done that way, it shouldn't be done. So that's sort of from being on my soapbox of morality. But